Good evening, everyone, and welcome. For those of you I haven't had the pleasure to meet yet, my name is Swartz, and I am the incoming CEO and President of the World Affairs Council of Philadelphia. I look forward to many more events and eventually meeting you all in person, our members and our supporters. Thank you for joining us tonight. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the 2020 Frank and Cheri Atlas Awards. We are grateful for Frank and Cheri's longtime involvement with the Council and for their generous support of this annual event. We thank them as well as our other supporters, including two presenting sponsors, Ernst & Young and UGI Amerigas, for their support of the Council and for our many students via this special event tonight. To learn more about our generous partners, I encourage you to visit our website and take a look at the virtual program book. Throughout the program this evening, you will have the opportunity to hear from students and teachers who benefit from the programs made possible by these generous partners. Global education is a cornerstone of the work of the World Affairs Council of Philadelphia, today and beyond. I can assure you, you will be very proud of the students you'll hear from tonight. Since 1998, the World Affairs Council of Philadelphia's Atlas Awards has honored individuals doing extraordinary humanitarian work close to home and far all around the world. They uphold the Council's founding maxim. In democracy, agreement is not essential. Participation is. 100 years ago, participation in this, our American democracy, greatly expanded when the 19th Amendment was signed, granting women the right to vote. That happens to be my grandmother's exact birthday. She was born the morning they signed the bill. She too would have been 100 this year and still quite excited to participate and to vote this fall. My grandmother was a poor Swedish immigrant who settled in as a farmer in northern Minnesota. She could never have imagined seeing her granddaughter standing here as a CEO and president. She could never have imagined this night honoring such trailblazing and phenomenal women. Both of our honorees this evening have worked to protect and empower female voices around the world and right here in Philadelphia, opening doors and creating opportunities far beyond our grandmother's wildest dreams. Before we introduce our first honoree, I would like to invite our Vice President of Programs, Hayley Boyle, to say a few words in recognition of Craig Snyder, as this is his final Atlas Awards as President and CEO of the Council. Hayley will join us at the podium after a short message from our generous venue sponsor, the Museum of the American Revolution. Thank you.
Welcome to this neighborhood, where the promise of the American Revolution began.
We are in the very midst of revolution, the most unexpected and remarkable of any in the history of nations.
The American Revolution does not belong exclusively to a moment in history or to any one group. The American Revolution is an idea.
Thank you, Lauren. And thanks also to our venue sponsor, the Museum of the American Revolution. While we know that the world today limits our ability to host in-person events like we used to, and while we look forward to the day when we can once again return to those in-person gatherings, we did not want to let the opportunity pass without thanking our outgoing President and CEO, Craig Snyder. Although our thanks to his 8 years of service is taking place on this mostly virtual occasion, our gratitude to him is certainly not diminished. Craig's leadership has brought about great growth for the Council during his tenure. For the Council's travel program, Craig launched the Council's seminar series of tours, which fully immersed travelers into challenging destinations such as Tunisia, Israel and Palestine, Russia, and Saudi Arabia and Qatar. His contributions and lectures on tours helped bring about an even richer experience for those lucky enough to have traveled with him. Our education programs, under Craig's leadership, and was invaluable in sustaining our partnership with the William W. Bodine High School for International Affairs after the loss of funding through the School District of Philadelphia in 2014. Craig also oversaw both the creation and expansion of the Global Smarts Mentoring Program, which began in 2012 with just 50 Title I students and is now on track to reach 1,000 middle school students served since its inception. Craig supported the development and expansion of educational programming into New Jersey and statewide in Pennsylvania through the creation and development of the Global Scholars Certificate Program. In conceptualizing and producing The Whole Truth with David Eisenhower, Craig, for the first time in the Council's history, took that mission of providing a reliable venue for civil, reasoned, and even-handed debate on issues of the day, and gave it a place on screens all across America. Over the course of 5 seasons, and reaching approximately 75% of US households at its peak, viewers all around the country and beyond have been engaged in long-form, intelligent conversation on subjects ranging from the evolution of the new media landscape to the role of Islam in the 21st century to the global rise of authoritarianism. Craig has been instrumental in building new relationships among our members and supporters and advocating for the Council's work in our community. Most recently, Craig oversaw the celebration of the Council's 70th anniversary, envisioning and completing a successful 2-year fundraising campaign. Through this campaign, he facilitated $2 million in new commitments to the Council in support of our work, bringing global education and civil discourse to Philadelphia and expanding the Council's reach in our community. As for the public podium programs, under Craig's guidance, we have also covered topics from every corner of our world and spanning a vast array of issues, a list so long that I couldn't possibly do it justice by reminiscing here tonight. Craig has posed thoughtful, provocative, and engaging questions to heads of state, top-ranking US government officials, experts, academics, journalists, activists, business executives, and even a retired NASA astronaut who spent a year in space. Many members have shared stories about how Craig's interviews with speakers have created an experience they could not get anywhere else and have brought them back time and time again. While I could certainly go on, I'll leave on a final note. Craig's unwavering commitment to our organization's values of nonpartisanship has taught me the deep importance of our mission in our seemingly divided world, that through civil discourse, we can foster learning, understanding, and at times, even changes of heart. I know he's guided me through many of those learning moments and changes of heart, and he has for so many of our members and supporters. Of course, in these weird times, shaking hands and standing close for photos isn't suitable, but I think I can speak for us all, especially the Council's staff, when I say thank you, Craig. Thank you for all you've done. You'll certainly be missed. We wish you success on your future endeavors, and I look forward to extending an invitation to you in the near future to speak from our podium, only this time not as a moderator, but as one of our expert speakers. I'd now like to turn it over to our chairman of the board, Michael Farrell, for our Atlas Award presentations right after this short message from one of our teachers. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Bob Moyer, and I'm the head of the history department at Germantown Academy. We can't thank you enough for both this organization and the individuals who fund it.
Thank you, Hayley, and I'd like to add my own note of thanks to Craig for all that he's accomplished during his tenure at the Council. As Lauren said at the top of the hour, the Council's Atlas Award is an annual event where we recognize individual and group achievements in humanitarian efforts and continuous dedication to improving the human condition on both international and domestic levels. A key tenet of the Council's mission is encouraging the participation of all in the discussions, processes, and decisions that impact our community and our world, no matter their background, political affiliation, age, race, or gender. Past recipients of the Council's Atlas Award have included Pulitzer Prize-winning American-Iranian journalist Jason Rezaian, Dr. Helene Gale, the CEO of the Chicago Community Trust, one of the nation's oldest and largest community foundations, and Vice President Joe Biden in recognition of his work with the National Cancer Moonshot Initiative. This evening, we are delighted to recognize Jami McKeon as our Philadelphia Community Honoree for her work empowering women through her leadership of Morgan Lewis, the largest law firm in the world to be chaired by a woman, and for her work in our community in Philadelphia. Jami was elected chair of the firm in 2014, and she is currently serving in her second term in that position. She has been described by Chambers as phenomenal and a great strategist, and her business acumen is the force behind Morgan Lewis's expanded professional presence in Singapore, China, and Japan. A passionate champion of diversity, Jami started ML Women, an initiative to harness the strength of women through partnerships with clients and to create opportunities for women around a shared industry or practice. Jami and her firm are also dedicated to serving the community through their pro bono representation of nonprofit organizations, including the World Affairs Council of Philadelphia. Jami has been extensively recognized for her work, including the American Red Cross Lifetime Achievement Award, the United Way's Women's Leadership Initiative Award, and being named among the Business Journal's top 100 influencers. Tonight, we would like to add the Council's Atlas Award as another well-deserved accolade for her leadership in our community. As we mentioned earlier, while the times do not allow for a formal handoff of our award, we'd like to welcome Jami McKeon to the podium in recognition of her work and for her remarks after a short message from one of the Council's Global Smarts mentors.
Please continue to support the World Affairs Council of Philadelphia. I think we really are producing global citizens with these education programs. So please continue to support so that we can continue on that mission. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that very kind introduction, and thank you for having me here, and congratulations, Craig. This is a wonderful organization, and we're so proud to be part of this evening. It's incredibly humbling to share the evening tonight with Nadia Murad, someone for whom I have so much admiration. I can't imagine the terrors that she's witnessed in her young life, and I marvel at the courage and perseverance she demonstrates every day. Because of Nadia's work, women around the world can hope for a future where sexual violence and human trafficking are relics of a horrible past. She personifies the rare courage that is so necessary to creating the kind of profound change that women and marginalized people everywhere must experience to truly be free. I, like all of you, are looking forward to her remarks and the discussion with Craig that will follow. Thank you, Nadia, for all you do, and all of us at Morgan Lewis look forward to supporting you and your efforts around the world. Women like Nadia inspire us to do more, to elevate the human condition. I'm flattered to receive an award from this organization that we have supported for so long and has done such important work to bring diverse views from around the world. We share the same philosophy. In a democracy, agreement is not essential, but participation is. My personal philosophy in this regard also aligns with comments made earlier today by U.S. Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer during a discussion, virtual of course, he had with the George Washington University Law School community to mark Constitution Day. Justice Breyer said, The people who wrote the Constitution thought, if you don't participate, this doesn't work. So stop complaining and start participating. Of course, they also thought it was okay to complain, but participation is the key. I believe passionately in the importance of doing, of acting, of engaging, and I'm proud that the organization I lead puts its collective knowledge and skills toward increasing the participation of everyone, particularly those who have historically been excluded from participating. That's one of the reasons why I've been so honored that our firm has been chosen for the past half dozen years to participate in the Fortune U.S. Department of State Global Women's Mentoring Partnership. This opportunity has allowed us to host and empower women and leaders from El Salvador, Vietnam, Ghana, Kenya, South Africa, and Guatemala. It's been a thrill to meet these special women and to try to do what I can and what the firm can to help them build their leadership, legal, and business skills. I always come away from these interactions knowing that I'm the one who's benefited and that I've learned as much from the mentees as I hope they learn from me. And I certainly am inspired by them. For all of the progress we have made in this country and the world, there is a long, long way to go. And the women who aspire to positions of leadership in many other nations face even greater challenges undreamed of here. As a law firm with offices in countries nearly circling the world, including Asia, Europe, and the Middle East, we've long understood the necessity of trying to deal with these challenges. That's why we devote significant time to pro bono activities and community outreach all around the world. Much of that work focuses on young people and women, who are often the most vulnerable members of any society. We've helped stock libraries and provide opportunities and equipment to disabled children to help them to learn and also to thrive. We represent victims of abuse and those who are in need. We also engage in impact litigation affecting people of all ages. I'm particularly proud of a couple recent court wins our firm achieved that could help thousands of Army soldiers to become U.S. citizens as a result of their military service, despite attempts by the government to block them. Importantly, we also advise local non-governmental organizations so that they can carry out their great work long into the future. It's that last point that I think is really critical. We can do a lot on our own, but we must make sure that what we're doing is helping provide the tools and the resources for the next generation, and the next, and the next. In other words, we must make sure that everyone can participate in helping us make a better world. This focus on inclusion, making room at the table, is the driving concept between our ML Women program that was mentioned earlier. The legal profession has a long history of being run by, and some would say for, men. ML Women focuses on creating opportunities for women lawyers to strengthen relationships, collaborate with each other and with clients, helping to create a strong, supportive internal environment. And we do this in partnership with our male colleagues so that all can participate. We've hosted ML Women events in Japan, the Middle East, London, and Moscow, to name a few, and we've also put together related programs serving women in other areas, such as ML Women in Tech, an industry few have viewed as particularly welcoming to women. And we have strong affinity programs for diverse lawyers, LGBTQ+ lawyers, and lawyers who are parents, which today presents challenges greater than any time ever before. Our firm has long valued tearing down barriers to advancement, and I'm proof of that. In 1989, I became a partner at Morgan Lewis at a time when that was exceedingly rare for a young woman, and a young woman with children at that. In 2014, I became chair of the firm, and since that time, we've been the largest law firm in the world to have a woman in that position. There were many people who helped and supported me, both women and men. But I believe that women leaders really do have an added set of responsibilities, whether we thought we signed up for that or not. It's important to open the doors of participation to all. We need to take steps that have tangible impacts that will help women have the chance to participate and succeed. When I heard the remarks about your grandmother, I thought about my own grandmother, who was born in 1910. Unfortunately, we lost her a few years ago, but she would have been so proud to see what's going on for women in the world today. And we have to make sure that 100 years from now, people are still amazed by the astonishing progress that we've made. This is not a charitable program or initiative. Science shows us that having diverse teams and viewpoints yield to better decisions, that having a broader group participating in decisions is good for the world and good even for our business. The almost 40 years that I've been practicing law has seen tremendous changes and progress, but we're not finished yet. There are still those who struggle to be heard and to be counted. Now we're on the precipice of even more profound changes, ones evidenced by the courage of Nadia, as well as thousands of people in the United States and around the world who've raised their voices against injustice. In today's world, people toss around the word unprecedented a lot. They use it to describe our ongoing public health crisis, our politics, our climate. I think it particularly applies to the deep reconsideration of racial equality we now see in our society. Never before in my life do I recall a moment when everyone, it seems, is listening. Not everyone hears, of course, and some actually reject the notion of change, even in the wake of such profound tragedies as the killing of George Floyd and so many others. We view Morgan Lewis as deeply interconnected with the world and the communities it serves. We also have the advantage of being home to thousands of lawyers and staff who share a keen sense of public service and a desire and a passion to make the world a better place. And we possess the skills to do something about it. That's one reason why, after the terrible tragedies we witnessed in Minneapolis and elsewhere, we knew we had to do more. We decided to launch a multifaceted effort, which we call Mobilizing for Equality, to try to address the structural issues that help create an environment that dehumanizes particular members of our society and subjects them disproportionately to violence. We know our response to this societal moment must be thoughtful, respectful, and above all, lasting and impactful. And while we made substantial financial contributions to this cause, money alone is not enough. We have to participate, and we are participating in making change with working groups on education and opportunity, economic development, impact litigation, law enforcement policy, and legislative reform, and voting rights. Members of our firm will be active in full force on this issue so that everyone will have a chance to express his or her will at the polls without risk to health or safety. Because as we all know, participation is essential to our democracy. Thank you again, Nadia, for inspiring us, and thank you, World Affairs Council of Philadelphia, for this wonderful honor, which I share with all of the good women and men of Morgan Lewis who are working every day to improve the human condition. Thank you so much.
By participating in the Council's programming, I've become a more civically educated person. I can better analyze the complex issues present in our world today through the experience that the program offers. When you support the World Affairs Council, you foster the growth of a generation by encouraging civic engagement. The World Affairs Council spurs on thoughtful discussions about pertinent issues, leading to a better understanding about our world. Thank you for your support.
Thank you once again, Jami. We are honored to have you with us tonight. I'd now like to introduce our 2020 National Honoree, Nadia Murad. Nadia is a human rights activist and 2018 Nobel Peace Prize winner. Kidnapped from her native village of Kokcho in Iraq at the age of 19, Nadia, along with 6,700 other Yazidi women, became prisoners and slaves of the Islamic State for 3 months. During her captivity, Nadia was routinely subjected to physical and sexual abuse before making a lucky escape with the help of neighbors. She is the founder of Nadia's Initiative, an organization committed to helping survivors of war crimes rebuild their lives, and her work is dedicated to ending the deployment of sexual violence as an instrument of war and military conflict. I'd now like to turn everyone's attention to a short video followed by a conversation with Nadia Murad, moderated by Craig Snyder.
members of the Islamic militant group ISIS have carried out a massacre.
In between explosives laid by ISIS, entire sections of the city are destroyed.
We can see the people below, trapped on Sinjar Mountain.
ISIS soldiers would brag about conquering Yazidi women and wiping their religion from the face of the earth.
اليوم هو يوم خاص بالنسبة لي. إنه اليوم الذي انتصر فيه الخير على الشر.
One of Europe's leading human rights prizes has been awarded to a 23-year-old activist, Nadia Murad.
A Yazidi victim of the Islamic State group who received a Nobel Peace Prize earlier this month.
In the years since her release, Murad has dedicated her life to fighting for the women still held by Daesh.
Nadia Murad is fighting for justice.
Nadia Murad.
Nadia Murad.
Nadia Murad.
Nadia Murad.
Nadia Murad.
Nadia Murad.
And Nadia Murad.
كأقلية كمندانة بنجسر أرضها. شعبنا وأحلامنا. كرامتنا كلها تدمرت.
There's no running water or electricity in Sinjar. The city is almost deserted.
Sexualized violence against girls and women has been used as a weapon of war for a long time.
Nadia, you refuse to accept the social codes that require women to stay silent and ashamed of the abuses that they've been subjected to.
Human rights activist Nadia Murad is working on a memoir.
The Last Girl, My Story of Captivity and My Fight Against the Islamic State.
She's also been named a UN Goodwill Ambassador for other human trafficking survivors.
As of today, Nadia is a United Nations ambassador who will speak for survivors all over the world.
Campaigning to try to get the world to notice and do something.
The money helps support the hospital, so that must have been very gratifying.
المجتمع الدولي سيساعدنا في جعل هذا الأمر ممكنا من خلال خلق بيئة آمنة، من خلال المساهمة في هذا المشروع لإعادة بناء المناطق الإيزيدية حتى تكون الخدمات الأساسية متوفرة لأولئك الذين يريدون العودة إلى ديارهم. ونرفع صوتنا سويا ونقول لا لاستغلال النساء والأطفال، نعم لتوفير حياة حرة كريمة لهم.
A powerful advocacy has helped to establish a vitally important United Nations investigation of the harrowing crimes that she and so many others endured.
ويمكن للعالم بشكل جماعي أن يبدأ في رسم خارطة طريق جديدة لحماية النساء والأطفال والأقليات من الاضطهاد.
Thank you, Lauren, Michael, Hayley, and Jami. Nadia, it is a genuine honor for everyone associated with the World Affairs Council of Philadelphia to have you here with us today, particularly in view of the present difficult circumstances around public gatherings. We thank you for making this trip to Philadelphia. On behalf of the officers and directors of the Council, I want to officially present to you the 2020 Atlas Award, which we've placed on the table for you to take when we're done. Nadia does speak English, but it's of course not her first language. And so we have Avid with us, who is also Yazidi and who will be providing translation. With that, let me ask you to just begin by telling our audience members what's on your mind today, what you think they need to hear from you.
از گلک کیف مبریز هاد مبر بشتی فترة كدريج كم هموجة قد بوين نقاربن رسالة وخلقي هكا نقاربو بجو ببينه يا قاربو حتى مسافة شيء بقى إجبي جهي بقهين ما خلقي از كيف ميروز هنا قاببين موسى.
I'm happy to be here today with you. Thank you so much for having me. It is good to, this is the first time I've done anything in person since the pandemic, and it's good to be here again talking to someone about these issues and trying to raise awareness again about the plight of the Yazidis and seeing someone in person talking to someone about these issues.
قالك تشت هيا هيش مستمر يصير سببا ما بشغل كري كجنو كشكيد حتى أنها ادوندا بيحترج ده هزاري كملتكي حتى أنها بشس على معي الكمبادة نقاربي بقرية جهد خوا كعدالتها لازم بو بحققي وحتى أنها تشين بوي الأوامدز إنه مقالي بجنيرو.
There are so many things on my mind to talk about. The things that I've been advocating for because of what happened to the Yazidi community in Iraq. Most of these things continue to happen. For example, we still have over 2,000 Yazidi women and children whom are missing in captivity somewhere. After 6 years, the majority of the Yazidi community remains in IDP camps, internally displaced camps in Iraq. When it comes to justice, we have not seen our day in court yet, and these are the things that I would like to talk about.
Yeah.
Thank you. I want to sort of take apart, if we could, what I think are sort of three main themes of your work: promoting international peace, calling attention to religious persecution and ethnic cleansing, and the sexual exploitation of women and girls as a weapon of war. My first question to you is whether or not you think the same policies work to reduce all three of those human rights violations, or if there is some differences among the approach that you think the world needs to take.
إبراهيم همو بيك بتجري داينا يكش باندشتا بإيدي تشينابي عنفا ضد جنيه نايا سكنان دين بهنك هناك أكشنيت مازن إش قبلي عالم همويبا.
Yes, they are connected. I believe that these things are connected. For example, the violence against women requires real actions to be able to stop that, not just talking about it.
الآلية السلام أو الآلية عدالتي نبأ بري إيزديا وبري داعش وبري القاعدة هزارة جروبات التاريخ تشيب ونو جينوسايد راكرين ديم تشتك هيا ضحية بري هموي برستكن أو ملات برستكن ودا خوازوانا إنه عدالة بي عدالتها دولي عدالتها إنه إيش همو آلية العالم بيرابي.
Throughout history, we've seen, unfortunately, genocides and campaign of violence against peoples. And whether it's wherever it is around the world, victims of these campaigns have one thing in common. They ask for justice. They ask for recognition of these crimes when they take place.
You mentioned the need for action and not just words. So I'm part of the first Jewish post-Holocaust generation. And I grew up with a slogan, never again. But we have to admit that that has been only a slogan since World War II, despite the architecture of international law that emerged from the Nuremberg trials. When we have seen genocide stopped, it was often by force. Whether the Allied armies in World War II, the Vietnamese military ending the killing fields in Cambodia, the NATO air campaign in the Balkans, or the coalition that has reduced the territory of ISIS. So my question is whether there needs to be an international force, military force, to intervene in situations of these extreme violations of human rights.
Oh, they're asking.
برأيي قواتك عسكري بي نا وقت مروفت بشي قواتك عسكري إنه إلا تكفيا منطقة هما بوكش قالك إنه بجن داعش هاتا خلاص كرنو همو هاتنا كشتن بس أفتشتكي نراستا داعش الروجة كيو ددوادا نهاتا تشكرين كل روجة كيو ددوادا بيا خلاص كرين.
In my opinion, I'm not advocating for her, but in my opinion, the need for a force to respond to these extreme situations is needed. For example, ISIS was not created overnight. Therefore, hearing that end of ISIS came a few years ago, I do not believe that, because it was not created overnight. Therefore, it's going to take a long time to dismantle the organization, the ideology of ISIS.
وكش عليه قوقة عسكرية مزنوش عليه وقت حرب راد به وشر راد به نباشش همو دنيا وقتي إنها مو بس خلقي إرهاب ويتي يقشتن يا ويتي قالك خلقي بريء ويتي كان بس بزحمات كاربي إرهابك وكداعش بيبي بتني بدي آلي يا دبكي أو شش هزار جنو كتشكي قردين بردا بدبيبا وكا أو هاتن الشر أو هاتن ببن دولة كامل وكا عراق وسورياوان وبزحمة تكاربي داريني إلا مشاركة قوات عسكري جاب.
Limited interventions are obviously required in situations, for example, with ISIS. It was not possible to stop ISIS without committing a military coalition to defeat ISIS and stop them, because they came to destroy and they came with violence and they had capabilities. And same goes with, the over 6,000 Yazidi women and children that were enslaved. It requires action and real force to try to liberate them.
There's also the framework of the international criminal justice. Are there particular individuals that committed the crimes of ISIS that you believe are still at large and need to be brought to justice as individuals?
هينا هكا قالك معلومات هتا عنها بفريقي محامية وكأمل كلوني وقالك ديتر فريقي يونت هات العراقي يفصالك إفادة ضحية داعش بخوا أويت هكا هاد مطلوب فيديو تشكرين ودار كدين وبيفتن وكم همو تشتهي دلائل السعر بس هتا هو نقشتنا ويحدي إنه المحكمين بين.
Yes, there are, and there is overwhelming evidence, for example, collected through our campaign with my attorney Amal Clooney and through the team of the UN called UNITAD, who is investigating ISIS crimes and collecting the evidence through the testimony of thousands of Yazidi survivors, and also, of course, through the public evidence available that ISIS was publicizing during this campaign of violence they did against Yazidis and others. But unfortunately, despite all of this, we have not seen ISIS members in court, those that were responsible.
You mentioned that there are still a large number of missing Yazidis. What can people who are watching this right now do to support the efforts to find those individuals and to bring some closure to their families?
إبراهيم هجي إنه حسامة بك إنه كاتب بفكري 10,000 سسي جنو زاروي بريء تينا اختصاب كرنل بي وقت إنه أم وقت حاولين نخوجيك دور بدني دا جباس أم خواص ساغ به نجبي فيروسي چلوت جنو زارويت وسا يومي بين اختصاب كرنل سر إرهابكي بيسي هكا بهورياوي حتى بان فيروس أو تشتاواني مد بخيلين إنه أول هيبيان مينا قارين دنجي خوا حتى بلكي منكاربن چن وان دارين نجدست وانو هكا مكاري وبلكي مبخوا ملاتي ما كربا بس دنجي وانش مري مهمة.
When we talk about over 2,000 Yazidi to 3,000 whom are still missing, mostly women whom we know are facing rape, sexual abuse at the hands of those that are holding them. Today we talk about a pandemic where, we worry about something that is even invisible, a virus, and yet, we've got thousands of real human beings whom have been missing for all these years. We're calling to try to rescue them and find a solution to find them. But we have not accomplished that, obviously. The one thing that whoever is listening and can help is to raise awareness about these individuals. There are so many stories out there, but raising awareness is what's needed in this case, because as individuals we cannot go and rescue them ourselves.
What do you believe can be done by the UN or other bodies that is specific to the goal of eliminating the use of sexual violence as an instrument of war? Is that a goal that can be discreetly approached on its own?
بيختار وكيش كم بشغل بكده إذا بيو إن رشغلهم وبرأيي يو إن إيرونا لازم الهيفيا بيبا ما يا ضحية كديبة جزاني بشغل وان شا يو إن نفس على كود دوا هذا تشكرين ونا مليون قصة الضحية إيش أفريقيا إيش ميدل إيست خلال حربة جهش جوان التشتوى كي مرة درباز بوين هتانها أو شغلنا قرينا شغلي لازم بوبيا سكنان دنيا إيروه المنادى.
In my opinion, the UN has been around for many years, obviously, and other bodies that do this kind of work. I don't think it's dependent on what I say today, because obviously they have the expertise, the resources to have created something by now. They have thousands of testimonies from women from Africa, from the Middle East, over the years. I do not believe they have the system yet in place to be able to tackle this pandemic of sexual violence around the world.
So if you had a magic wand and you could change global policy, what would you add? What additional tools would you add to try to achieve that goal of eliminating the use of sexual violence as a deliberate instrument of war?
حكم تشتكي بتنقاري بإجبار كي إرهاب ديتي الترباسي ويدري بوي إنه أزي عدالة ما لازم بسكني وقت الدلائل همو هاي وقت هشتي وسي مقبرة جماعية الشنقال ده هاي تأيزديا وقت إفادة 6,000 ضحية سردستيوان وقت تبايبا داعش بخوديتي وقابل سر أما كأقلية كما زهيلم أو داعش العراقي ذكرتي إيش كاش داخلي ورو نش داخلي ورو كما ويمين شو سالة بمحكمة قرين.
Justice. I can tell you, for example, a specific case. In the specific case of Yazidis, we have 83 mass graves discovered so far. We have testimonies of over 6,000 survivors of genocide and sexual violence of Yazidis. We have overwhelming, like I said, public evidence out there of what happened. Why do we wait 6 years, and why do we wait longer and longer to deliver justice for the victims of ISIS? So one tool we have is always to hold those perpetrators accountable and deliver justice.
تشتدي وقا حكم بجن داعش كما داعش هتانو هذا زانانيا كما هتانو ها بجنوب ندعينا كما قواتاوان هتانو هاي إجبار داعش نشكوش تناكي ترسي وقتي هاتي وقا إرهابكي إنه already بس إيش محكمة ترسي روجكي ببيني أو جنا هكا تعدلي كري المحكمة البيجبر بسكني أبوي بيدرس إيش إرهاب أبوي وبيدرس إيش قالكيد هكا الهيبيا فرسكي إنه عن فاضي جني دي سابق كررين.
Obviously, from what we've seen ISIS do in terms of violence, they're not afraid of death. So, but what I think they're afraid of is facing their victims in a court of law. That's what they're afraid of, looking at a woman in the court of law and admitting to what they did. And this is what's needed. This is This is what needs to happen to establish deterrence and a lesson learned from other groups that have genocide intentions and that want to commit same crimes in the future.
So I'm obviously not going to ask you to make a political endorsement, and we understand that your cause and your organization are non-political. But there's an election obviously upcoming in the United States, and I want to ask if, from your point of view, you see a difference in the policy approach that the Trump administration or a possible Biden administration would take on these issues. Do you see a real difference between the two parties in the United States on these issues, or do you believe there would be fundamental continuity?
هكا وكم رأي أخوة داك إنسانك إيش مجتمعك ضعيف هاتيش دولتك أحوجي هتان هجي دعم أمريكا برأيي هكا الأمريكا بي وهكا الآلي خارجي بأمريكا بي لازم ديم تشتكي وقت هابد هبي تشتي باش لي زيدا بكي قالك جارز فكرم إنه تشلو وقت شلو الأمريكا دا وقتت بيا شاغي انتخابان هوان اتبجن فلان آلي هكا تشتر بكا يا آلي ديتر لازم هو بكا تشتر بكا برأيي من لازم هر آلية كي هات تشتبيرا بغيريش بر ايدي وكا آلية دي أو قرار دا لازم بيا غير عندن راس وسات عداش وكا تعداوي وفي داوي الآلية ما جدرت كبيسر آلية ميدل إيست.
I'm saying my opinion as someone from a vulnerable community who's advocating for that community and that still and has always needed the support of the U.S. And what I think should happen is that there should be something permanent when it comes to a country like the U.S. or another powerful country in the West, something permanent in terms of policy that vulnerable groups should be supported and protected. These basic human rights issues should not change with one administration to the other. So what I'm saying is that that help should not change when an election comes, and we should, the U.S. as a nation should help these vulnerable groups no matter who's in power.
Yeah, وكبعدي أمريكا مثلاً إيرو البدري بنيتش قرار هذا داني إنه بنيكي هاد بالرئيس أو بو وكمالي منه إنه خلق زانبي إنه علي دي جالك الهيبة دعما فير بلكي بيبكش إيش حكومة أمريكا بحكومة دويدري همرة مليون لاجئ عربين جو خدب آمن بقرين خلقي وكأيز داي بيجي جن بين حماية كرين دوري أمريكا نيوك دوري كتاكيا الآلية حماية أقليات.
My hope is that whoever becomes president will continue to support vulnerable groups like Yazidis and champion the cause of religious freedom around the world. And because my community and other communities like the Yazidis await U.S. help, and without the support of the U.S., these groups cannot survive. Those that are displaced can be returned home with the support of the U.S. It's not just the U.S. policy that matters. Sometimes it's also what the U.S. president or what the U.S. government says also echoes around the world.
You have, as Jami mentioned, looked directly into the face of evil in a way that probably no one watching this broadcast has done. And I want to ask for your thoughts on what you have come to believe motivates the perpetrators of these crimes. Some argue, as I'm sure you know, that almost anyone could be a participant in these kinds of acts under certain circumstances. And others would say no, there are particular characteristics, deformities, if you will, of character that lead some people in an awful direction. You would know better than most. So what is your view?
دەزانی هەکەنها دەبێ سەر ئالی بنێڕی بدەرسی تشتی داعش هاتی بەبەری 6 ساڵە شنگال دەگیری و حەقی ئێزدیە تشتێکی مەدروست بوو سەر بەری بێنە شنگال کردنە منتەقەی مەسیحیە و سەر پلانی خۆدانی بوون کە چلۆ هەنە خەتوە وەکە هەنە خەیارات هەبنی کە دەرکەبن کە جزیە بدەن یا وەکە سێ خەیارەت دانەوان بێ نەش خۆبەر دەرباز بوون و دانێتە ئەلسەر خوێندی بوون و چێگر بوون.
In my opinion, a group like ISIS does not just come and attack a group like Yazidis. This was planned, premeditated, and before they attacked Yazidis, obviously they attacked Mosul, the Christian community there, and with that community, they had a plan also that to give them options, either to pay a fee, which is called jizya, or other option to leave the city, for example. And so what I think is that they plan, groups like that plan their genocidal intentions.
گەلێکی وەکە في وقتی چویدت بجن داعش هناك بون قهشناك وشغلة كرنو هناك بون بس وكا دافعي وان هيا انه قارن ميلادت هو خلاص بكن السر هدفك هاتن شو ما دولة عربي وانجي خاصة في ديما انه العراق دم تشتكي علني بومتع نديتن ككافر كندينش كتابي الكتابة وانينا قالك جارة خوارنامة ندادا كرين ندادا خوارن تجارة وكا أم خوانا بون كخلقكي مستحق الودري بميني شويكي وكا هاتن ودافعيوان إنه أف خلق وكا حيب السروان أم النيفوان دا بعيش.
I think what specifically motivated ISIS to attack Yazidis was their intentions to eradicate the existence of the Yazidi community in that region, in Iraq especially. When they came, this was a process started long before that, the dehumanization of Yazidis, people not eating the food that was produced by Yazidis, calling them unbelievers and not people of the book. These kind of rhetorics build up slowly towards the Yazidis, and then ISIS felt and they declared that they felt shameful that a group like Yazidis existed among them in that region, and so their intentions and motivations was to eradicate that group.
بس كأو وكغيري وان ويدبري وان وبشتي وان إبراهيم تشتكي أساسية أو تجد وان دحفدة إنه كره وكره تنقاري البر بسكني إلا يعني نبروجك يوددوا وكره خطر ترى إيش سلاحي.
What also motivates them is their hatred toward groups like that. There are different faith, different groups, and I believe that's even the ideology of hate, specifically in that regard, is more dangerous than weapons, and it takes a long time. It takes efforts to fix that. It does not happen overnight.
We have a number of young women watching, including my daughter, and I think if I can impose on you, if you can tell us about your own personal journey of recovery, how have you found the strength to tell this story and to become an advocate and not a victim?
دزانی بشه ساله هر روز دارید کتم بشه ساله تانو هزل هیویما از شش براید خوداگا خو برازید خو بیشیرم افشه ساله از هر رو وقف فايتت كمل سر إنه از بكملاتي ما بكرامات بعيشة خلقي ما يبقرياي الكمبادة نبيا بشتيبويا ضحية عبادك نبيا ضحية استغلالة هنا جروبات دي خلقي دي الزكيوان مخيمات هذا أبزحمات وقا أزو قال أكيد وكم خببين النضحية هتا عدالة أدانين هتا تحقق خوا وكم حقق خوانا بن إنه أم كرامتا ما هي جبو بسحمد وكسر عبم روجا كيز ببينم خوا كنا بضحيان سببا ناتشتكي بس چماش جنك مو چماش أقليكي.
For 6 years, I've been speaking publicly about what happened and to raise awareness about what happened to me in the Yazidi community. For 6 years, I've waited and fought to make sure that my 6 brothers and my mom that were killed for no reason, to bury them properly. Fighting to make sure that those Yazidis that survived are able to live with dignity again and reestablish their lives. Making sure that those that survived and remain in the camps, especially women and children, are not being taken advantage of. Not seeing myself as not a victim it's sometimes it's hard because until we see justice and accountability and my people are able to live again with dignity, it's hard to see that we're not victims.
I can think of no better message to leave our audience with than that. I want to thank you again for joining us, Abid, for your help as well. And thank you, of course, to all the supporters and listeners of the World Affairs Council here at the Museum of the American Revolution and our audience online. We are adjourned.